A guide on choosing the best home-based business for you. Synopsis: the following are some points to consider before actually taking the plunge into one's own home business experience. The basics: making sure there is a market for the intended home business feature is important. There is little point of setting up a home business based on a service or product that does not have a market, as people are generally not interested in what is being offered. Therefore, some time and effort should be exercised to ensure the intended elements are marketable. Consider the importance of having a separate space that is solely used for the home business. Working within this designated space would help the individual focus better and also keep boundaries evident for others to be aware of. The mental and physical positive points to having this designated space cannot be emphasized enough. Investing in proper equipment for the home-based business is also another important factor to consider. Lacking in this area would only end up costing the individual further when these interruptions add cost to the overall business entity even before substantial profits are evident. From a legal point of view, all the necessary documentation and licensing regulations and requirements should be adequately perused and approved before embarking on the home business venture. Nothing is worse than incurring the wrath of various governing agencies when proper procedures have not been followed. Chapter 2: Decide what your interests are. Synopsis: steering a home-based business along the lines of the individual's interest is something to consider, as it would be a huge contributing factor to the eventual success of the business. What is it? Deciding to do something that one is good at or interested in creates the ideal mindset that will help to keep the business afloat if during difficult times, and this is a very important motivating factor for those going into this kind of business venture. As there is really no one to spur the individual to press on, the interests factor is what can ensure the desire to succeed stay prevalent always. When a home business is built around an individual's interest, there is also the added advantage of the individual having the necessary knowledge about the choice made that will help to steer the business exercise in the right direction. Going in blind will not be an issue, and good decisions can be made simply based on the knowledge that comes from the interest in that particular area. Also, in doing something that one enjoys and likes very much, the evidence in the quality of the work being produced will be very visible. When there is a level of excitement around the business environment, it can not only be a positive element but can also help to create the ideal work mindset and physical conditioning that dictates eventual success no matter what the challenges are. Most people who venture into the home business based on their interest have been statistically proven to be able to make a success of the endeavor. Making the experience come forth as pleasurable rather than just work is often what keeps the individual able to come up with further ideas that will also positively contribute to the innovation of the business, thus keeping it relevant and vibrant at all times. Chapter 3: Decide what your strengths are. Synopsis: being able to identify and tap into one's strengths is a very positive and advantageous thing to be able to do. What's your best stuff? The energy one is able to harness from this is immeasurable and often in the single most important factor that contributes to the success of any endeavor undertaken. Using these strengths to further develop one's natural skills and then leverage it to one's benefits is also another advantage. The individual will be able to eventually downplay or repair any apparent weaknesses along the way. Traditionally, people often tend to focus on the negative elements, and in the process of this, they try to make the necessary adjustments to combat this negativity. However, in doing so, there is the possibility of paying too much attention to this and forgetting to tap into the positive elements that are brought on by the thorough understanding of one's strengths. Thus, instead of harnessing and capitalizing on one's strengths, energy is being wasted on correcting weaknesses, which will eventually cause valuable time and resources to be wasted. Capitalizing on one's strengths will bring forth the highest potential in the individual and offer the platforms to expand and explore further avenues to shine and be productive. Taking the time to actually explore the various interests that excite the individual would be one way of specifically identifying the said individual's strengths. This can be done in a number of ways, such as observing what excites the individual, what creates the willingness to extend help even when the circumstances is deemed not likely to improve, being able to identify what sort of activity will most likely attract the interest and commitment of the individual, where and when the individual is most likely to contribute mentally or physically, and any other such scenarios that would cause the individual to be more approachable and more likely to be contributive. Chapter 4: Decide on your financial needs. Synopsis: there are several connective reasons as to why people venture into starting up their own home-based businesses. Among the most popular reasons is the interest in making some extra money. Money-making intentions for starting a home-based business enterprise is a very effective and innovative way of applying one's skills and expertise to good use. Money for some, this need may be a dominant factor in ensuring they have the means to survive and live comfortable without having to resort to negative resource like loan and such. While for others it may simply a means of earning that extra cash to create a comfortable earning base for the little enjoyments in life outside the current necessary commitment brackets. Either way, starting a home business can cater comfortably to any financial need if the necessary effort and commitment is evident. Once the financial need is properly identified, the individual can effectively work towards addressing and achieving this need. The element of control is then in the hands of the individual, and this can be a very important motivation tool to tap into. The control factor which lies in the hands of the individual will then dictate the type, style, platform, dedication levels, and any other connective elements to the revenue earning capacity of the business endeavor chosen. This control element will also dictate the level of commitment the individual is interested in investing into the business entity for the desired achievement of the financial need first established. If the financial need identified is significant, then it is more likely that the individual will be more willing to go into the home-based business with an almost unwavering dedication to ensuring the success which is needed to fulfill the financial need. Having a clearly defined financial need will be instrumental in dictating the eventual commitment levels willing to be invested in the business entity. Chapter 5: Decide if you will work offline or online. Synopsis: there are several different options for an individual to choose from today, when intending to venture into the home-based business exercise. However, the type of business chosen will in some way create the necessity to only use selected types that are most suited to the particular choice made. Which way working online and working offline entails very different and often conflicting elements. Therefore, when deciding to choose either option, one should be well informed of the advantages and disadvantages of both styles. The following are some points that could be enlightening. Online businesses have the capacity to be limitless when it comes to being able to reach the target audience anywhere and everywhere. There are also no time constraints, and this is of course convenient for the merchant operating the business in one part of the world while trying to reach a customer base in the other part of the world. Online businesses also do not really require expensive advertising campaigns and propaganda tactics, as the various tools available on the internet can be explored and exploited to ensure optimum advertising opportunities at minimal or no costs at all. In most cases, online marketing styles do not require extensive office space and a battalion of staff to go with it. A lot of the work can be done electronically, thus effectively saving time, space and manpower. This of course is another cost-effective contribution to the overall business entity. All of the above applies to the offline business in the opposite way. Thus, for some, using the offline option may not be as viable as idea as first perceived. However, there are some advantages to using the offline platform which would be the very real feel of actually operating a business. This visibility both for the individual and for those around can be a very profound and domineering feature indeed. Chapter 6: Research companies that fit your interests and skills. Synopsis: in order to make the right choices when it comes to starting up a home business endeavor, one should first understand the market sentiments and what and where there are companies that fit the interest and the skill intended to be offered for services are located, and what the expectations are. This is critical to ensuring the elements that relate to the interest and skill are well tapped into to bring forth optimum results. Check into it. Perhaps among the first steps to be taken would be to analyze the skills and interest of the individual, and then using this to gauge the lucrative aspect and contribution of the choices made. By doing this, it is hoped that the ideal match would be made to match the skills and interest with the selected business endeavor for successful results. The likelihood of experiencing problems that would stall the business will be much less if there are relevant skill to be tapped into whenever the situation calls for it. To enhance the prospects of attracting the attention of organizations which would be interested in using the expertise offered by the home business entity, the individual would have to ensure the existing skills are impressive and adequate enough to suit the company's needs. Keeping up to date within the particular field would help the individual better assess the current market trends, and thus be able to identify areas where his or her particular skills would be needed and appreciated. As there are many companies now ready to outsource their workload, being visible in providing the relevant skills needed by the company would help the individual to attract contracts and other work opportunities for the home business setup. This visibility will also help to create a present for the business entity for any future job opportunities. Chapter 7: Financing for Startup. Synopsis: capital or lack thereof is always the most dominant issue when it comes to financing startups. There are several sources of getting this financial assistance, but most of the time it is not as easy to acquire such financial assistance without the relevant skills to do so. Raising capital is the most basic of all business activities that often take up a huge amount of time and effort, especially if the intended business is home-based in nature. The cash raising the desired capital can be done through several legally acceptable channels, and choosing any one of the many available sources would help get the business started up quickly and conveniently. Being able to obtain and secure financing through various monetary establishments such as banks, financial houses, mortgages and many others is one option available for anyone wanting to embark upon the home business experience. However, some of these institutions are very demanding, is requesting the relevant accompanying documentation, skills, knowledge and expertise be of a certain standard. Families and friends are another good option to look into when looking for financing for the home-based business. These sources have been a rather popular choice when it comes to getting help without too much hassle, which the bigger and more established lending institutions seems to demand. However, here too there may be some points that one needs to consider, so that there are no unwanted problems arising from this arrangement. Choosing the right person to approach for the financing help is important, and the best type would be one who is willing to invest without actually wanting to take an active part in the daily running of the business. Whichever financial assistance is sought, the individual should first ensure that all the relevant preparations have been done in order to be able to address any questions and queries that the potential investor may ask. Chapter 8: Managing your new company. Synopsis: there are several tried and true methods that can be successfully adopted to ensure this positive end is guaranteed. The methods the following are some elements to consider when embarking on the task of managing a new company. Leading the company in the direction of success should be a dominant feature constantly at the forefront of any decision-making process. Effective leadership, even if it is to be applied to just the individual itself, should not be underestimated for its effectiveness. This characteristic will be the overall deciding factor in the capable running of the business entity. Growing the business is another important element to consider right from the start of the new business endeavor. Simply concentrating on getting the business up and running is not nearly enough in the quest to get it to the successful platform where revenue earnings are phenomenal. Having all the future plans well outlined and ready for implementation at the right intervals would be beneficial, especially when time is of the essence. Planning such maneuvers only when called for would be very unwise indeed. Being prepared for all possible eventualities is also another good point to consider. This will help to keep the new business on track as opposed to having it fall apart at the first sign of a challenge. The general structure of the business entity should be well thought out and in place so that any positive additions can be considered without too much fuss or disturbance to the original setup. Within the managing plans for the new company, there should also be a format in place to the future expansion possibilities that would take the business endeavor global. Being prepared to tap into the global market should be included in the new business future plans. Wrapping up. Having a vision for the new business entity and wanting to achieve it within a desired time frame is always a good place to start when addressing the managing side of the said business. Hopefully this book has given you a start.